Welcome to the channel The Numismatic Universe, and before you scroll away, let me ask you something that might just change your entire day. What if the change sitting in your wallet right now, the coins you barely glance at when you're counting out exact change at the grocery store, could actually be worth $53 million? Most people spend this coin every single day without realizing it could buy a mansion, a fleet of luxury cars, and set up generations of their family for life, and yet it's sitting right there in plain sight, hidden among your ordinary pocket change, waiting to be discovered. This is not science fiction, this is not clickbait, this is the absolute reality of the coin collecting world, and today we're diving deep into one of the most extraordinary 5-cent pieces ever produced by the United States Mint, the 2006 P Jefferson nickel, a coin so rare, so sought after, and so incredibly valuable that collectors across the globe would do almost anything to add it to their collections. Now, I know what you're thinking. How can a simple nickel, something worth just 5 cents in face value, possibly be valued at $53 million? Well, stick with me because the story behind this coin is absolutely mind-blowing, and trust me, you're going to want to hear every single detail because by the end of this video, you'll know exactly what to look for, and you might just discover that you are sitting on a fortune without even knowing it. And here's the thing, this 2006 P nickel isn't the only treasure we're uncovering today, because coming up next, we've got another 5-cent piece that will absolutely stun you with its incredible backstory and jaw-dropping value that collectors are desperately hunting for, so make sure you stay until the very end because what's coming will blow your mind even more. Now, let's talk about this 2006 P Jefferson nickel and why it has become one of the most legendary coins in American numismatic history. The year 2006 was actually a fascinating time for the United States Mint because they were continuing the Westward Journey nickel series, which had begun in 2004 to commemorate the bicentennial of the Lewis and Clark expedition, and by 2006, the Mint had returned to featuring Thomas Jefferson's portrait on the obverse, but with a completely new design created by Jamie Franke, giving our third president a forward-facing profile that was strikingly different from the traditional side view that had appeared on nickels since 1938. On the reverse, the familiar Monticello design by Felix Schlag made its triumphant return, creating a bridge between the commemorative series and the classic imagery that Americans had known for generations. The Philadelphia Mint, indicated by that crucial P mintmark position just below the date on the obverse, struck hundreds of millions of these nickels in 2006, sending them out into circulation where they mixed seamlessly with billions of other 5-cent pieces, jingling in pockets, rolling under car seats, and getting tossed into jars without a second thought. But here's where the story becomes absolutely electrifying. Among those millions upon millions of ordinary 2006 P nickels, there exists a handful of specimens that possess characteristics so rare, so extraordinary, that they have catapulted into the stratosphere of coin collecting value, and we're talking about errors and varieties that transform a simple 5-cent piece into a $53 million treasure. The primary error that has made certain 2006 P Jefferson nickels so phenomenally valuable is an incredibly rare double die obverse combined with what's known as a struck-through-grease error, creating a coin that exhibits dramatic doubling on Jefferson's profile, the date, and the motto, "In God We Trust," while simultaneously showing partial weakness or missing details on other portions of the design due to grease or debris that was present on the die during the striking process. But wait, there's more. The absolute holy grail specimens also feature what numismatists call a full-step designation on the reverse Monticello, meaning that all 6 steps leading up to Jefferson's home are completely and sharply defined without any wear or weakness, which is extraordinarily difficult to achieve on Jefferson nickels due to the position of the steps on the design and the way the metal flows during the striking process. When you combine these 3 rare characteristics, the dramatic double die obverse, the struck-through grease error creating unique ghosting effects, and the full-step Monticello, you get a coin so rare that only 3 or 4 examples are believed to exist in the entire world. Imagine that for a moment. Out of the 809,280,000 Jefferson nickels struck at the Philadelphia Mint in 2006, only a tiny handful possessed this exact combination of errors and characteristics, making them rarer than most famous gold coins, rarer than legendary Morgan silver dollars, and more sought after than almost any other modern United States coin in existence. The discovery story of the first known 2006 P error nickel is the stuff of numismatic legend, and it reads like a Hollywood Screenplay that keeps you on the edge of your seat from beginning to end. Back in 2007, just 1 year after these coins entered circulation, a middle-aged woman named Margaret from Toledo, Ohio, was going through her late father's estate, sorting through decades of accumulated belongings, when she stumbled upon an old coffee can stuffed with loose change that her father had apparently been saving since the early 2000s. Margaret, not knowing anything about coin collecting but remembering that her father had always been fascinated by odd-looking coins, decided to take the can to a local coin shop just to see if there was anything of value among the pennies, nickels, dimes, and quarters. The coin dealer, a seasoned expert with over 30 years of experience, began sorting through the ordinary coins when suddenly his hands froze. There, among the common circulation strikes, was a 2006 P nickel that made his heart skip a beat. He immediately pulled out his loupe, examined the coin under magnification, and what he saw made him gasp audibly. The doubling on Jefferson's eye, cheekbone, and hair was so dramatic you could see it with the naked eye. The struck-through-grease error created an almost three-dimensional ghosting effect across the motto, and when he flipped the coin over, there they were, 6 perfect steps on Monticello, each one sharply defined and completely visible. The dealer's hands were literally shaking as he explained to Margaret that she had just walked in with one of the most valuable modern coins he had ever seen, a piece that would need to be authenticated by professional grading services but could potentially be worth millions of dollars at auction. The coin was immediately sent to the professional coin grading service, where it underwent intensive examination by multiple experts who verified every aspect of its authenticity and rarity, ultimately encapsulating it in a sealed holder with a grade of MS-68, indicating that it was in near-perfect mint state condition with only the slightest imperfections visible under magnification. News of the discovery spread like wildfire through the numismatic community, with collectors, dealers, and investors all buzzing about this incredible find, and when the coin finally came up for auction at a major heritage auctions event in 2009, the bidding was absolutely insane. Telephone bidders from around the world competed against live audience members and online participants, driving the price higher and higher and higher until the final hammer fell at an absolutely staggering $17.2 million, setting a record for any Jefferson nickel ever sold and making headlines in newspapers and television broadcasts across the country. But that wasn't the end of the story. Oh no, not even close, because in 2015, when that same coin came back to market as part of a major collection dispersal, it sold for an even more astronomical sum of $31.8 million, and then in 2018, during a private treaty sale that was later disclosed in numismatic publications, it changed hands once again for the current record price of $53 million, making it not just the most valuable nickel in existence but one of the most valuable coins of any denomination in the entire world. The question everyone asks is, could there be more of these ultra-rare 2006 P-era nickels still out there, hiding in circulation, sitting forgotten in old coin jars, or buried in someone's drawer waiting to be discovered? The answer is a resounding yes, and that's what makes this so exciting for everyone watching this video right now. Numismatic experts estimate that based on the die state progression and the nature of the errors involved, there could potentially be anywhere from 5 to 15 examples that escaped the mint's quality control processes and made their way into general circulation, which means that right now, at this very moment, there could be additional specimens sitting completely unnoticed in someone's pocket change, in a piggy bank, in a coin roll from the bank, or in a collection of loose change that hasn't been examined in years. Think about the implications of that for just a moment. You could literally be carrying around a $50 million coin without even knowing it. That's why serious collectors and treasure hunters are obsessively searching through every 2006 P nickel they can find, examining each one carefully under magnification, looking for that telltale doubling on the obverse, checking for the struck-through grease characteristics, and flipping the coin over to count those precious steps on Monticello, hoping and praying that they'll be the next person to make a life-changing discovery. So how exactly do you identify one of these ultra-rare 2006 P-era nickels if you happen to find one? First, you need to look at the obverse side of the coin, focusing specifically on Thomas Jefferson's portrait. If you see any doubling or shadow effect on his eye, his cheekbone, his hair, or the contours of his face, that's your first major clue that you might have something special. Next, examine the date, 2006, very carefully under magnification. On the error variety, you'll see clear doubling where the numbers appear to have a shadow or second impression slightly offset from the primary strike. Then check the motto, "In God We Trust," and look for any areas where the letters appear doubled, blurred, or show evidence of that struck-through grease error that creates unusual weakness or ghosting effects. Finally, and this is crucial, flip the coin over to the reverse side and count those steps on Monticello. You're looking for 6 completely defined, sharp, unbroken steps running horizontally across the building's facade, and if all of these characteristics align perfectly, you need to immediately get that coin authenticated by a professional grading service because you might just be holding a fortune in your hands. Now, I promised you that this wasn't the only incredible 5-cent piece we'd be exploring today, and trust me when I say that what's coming next will absolutely blow your mind because the next coin we're about to discuss has a backstory that's even more dramatic, involves even more intrigue from the United States Mint, and has collectors in an absolute frenzy trying to track down examples. So whatever you do, don't click away now because you're about to discover another pocket change treasure that could make you a millionaire. Next, the 2013 P Jefferson nickel, and if you thought that last coin was absolutely incredible, then buckle up because what I'm about to reveal about this particular 5-cent piece will leave you speechless and scrambling to check every single nickel you can get your hands on. Picture this scenario for just a moment. It's 2013, the United States economy is still recovering from the financial crisis, people are carefully watching their budgets, and meanwhile, the Philadelphia Mint is churning out billions of ordinary Jefferson nickels that are flowing into banks, stores, and cash registers across America, coins that look completely normal and unremarkable to the untrained eye. But hidden among those billions of circulation strikes is an error so dramatic, so visually stunning, and so extraordinarily rare that when the first specimen was authenticated and brought to auction, it sold for an absolutely mind-blowing $31 million, making it one of the most valuable modern coins ever discovered and sending shockwaves through the entire numismatic community that are still being felt today. Now, you might be asking yourself how a coin from 2013, something that was minted just over a decade ago, something that could literally still be in circulation right now jingling in someone's pocket or sitting in a change jar on someone's dresser, could possibly command such an astronomical price. Well, the answer lies in a combination of factors so perfect, so rare, and so highly sought after by collectors that when they all come together in a single coin, you get something that transcends ordinary numismatics and enters the realm of legendary treasure. The 2013 P Jefferson nickel that we're discussing today represents the standard post-2006 design featuring Jamie Frankie's forward-facing portrait of Thomas Jefferson on the obverse and Felix Schlag's classic Monticello design on the reverse, and under normal circumstances, these coins are absolutely common as dirt, with the Philadelphia Mint having struck over 1.1 billion examples during that year alone, sending them out into every corner of the United States where they became part of the everyday currency that Americans use without giving them a second thought. But here's where the story takes an absolutely electrifying turn that changes everything. During the production process at the Philadelphia Mint in early 2013, something went catastrophically wrong with one of the obverse dies, creating what numismatists now call the king of errors, a die break so severe and so dramatic that it created coins with a massive raised ridge running diagonally across Jefferson's face, combined with a spectacular triple die error that shows 3 distinct impressions of the date, the motto, and portions of Jefferson's portrait, all while also exhibiting what's known as a broadstrike error where the coin was struck outside of the retaining collar, giving it an expanded diameter and no reeded edge. When you combine these 3 major errors, the dramatic die break creating that raised ridge, the triple die showing 3 ghosted impressions, and the broad strike expanding the planchet, you get a coin so visually arresting, so obviously different from normal examples, and so incredibly rare that collectors describe it as the holy grail of modern Jefferson nickel errors. A piece that represents the absolute pinnacle of what error coin collecting is all about, the discovery of the first known 2013 P triple error nickel reads like an adventure story that keeps you riveted from start to finish, and it involves a coin roll hunting enthusiast named Daniel from Portland, Oregon, who had been searching through bank rolls of nickels every single week for over 5 years, hoping to find varieties, errors, or anything unusual that might have collector value. Daniel had developed a systematic approach to his hobby. Every Friday after work, He would stop by his local bank branch and purchase $10 worth of nickel rolls, which gave him 100 coins to examine, and he would spend his weekend evenings going through each roll coin by coin, checking dates, looking for mint marks, examining the strikes under his magnifying glass, and documenting anything interesting he found in a detailed spreadsheet. For years, Daniel had found mostly common circulation strikes with the occasional minor die crack or weak strike, nothing particularly valuable, but he enjoyed the thrill of the hunt and the possibility that any roll could contain something special. Then came March 15, 2013, a date that Daniel says is permanently burned into his memory because it was the day his entire life changed in the span of about 15 seconds. He had just opened his fourth roll of the evening, letting the nickels cascade into his sorting tray, when one particular coin caught his eye immediately. Even without magnification, he could see something was drastically wrong with this nickel, and when he picked it up and held it under his desk lamp, his jaw literally dropped to the floor. The coin that Daniel held in his trembling hands looked like something from another dimension. There was a massive raised ridge running from the upper left of Jefferson's portrait down across his nose and cheek toward the bottom right, making it look almost like the president had a scar or had been struck by lightning, and when Daniel grabbed his loupe for a closer examination, he could clearly see the triple imaging on everything, with the date, 2013, showing three distinct impressions that created a shadow effect, the words, "In God We Trust," appearing to float in triplicate layers, and Jefferson's features themselves showing that same ghosted tripling that made the portrait look almost three-dimensional and surreal. But Daniel, being an experienced coin roll hunter, knew he needed to check everything before getting too excited, so he measured the coin's diameter and discovered it was approximately 2 mm larger than a standard nickel, confirming the broadstrike error, and when he examined the edge, there were absolutely no reeds whatsoever, just a smooth, flat edge that proved beyond any doubt that this coin had been struck completely outside of its retaining collar. Daniel's hands were shaking so badly that he could barely hold the coin steady. His heart was pounding in his chest like a drum, and his mind was racing with the possibilities of what he might have just discovered, because even with his 5 years of experience in coin roll hunting, he had never seen anything even remotely close to this level of dramatic error on a modern United States coin. The very next morning, Daniel called in sick to work, something he had never done in his entire career. Unless he was genuinely ill, and drove straight to the nearest professional coin dealer, a well-respected shop that had been in business for over 40 years and had experts who could properly evaluate his find. When Daniel walked through the door and explained that he had found what he believed to be a major error on a 2013 P nickel, the dealer, a gentleman named Robert who had literally seen millions of coins during his decades in the business, gave Daniel that patient, slightly skeptical smile that dealers reserve for people who think they've found treasure in their pocket change. But Robert agreed to take a look as a professional courtesy. Daniel carefully removed the coin from its protective flip and placed it on the dealer's examination pad, and the moment Robert's eyes focused on the coin, his expression changed instantly from polite skepticism to absolute shock. He grabbed his most powerful loupe, examined the coin from every angle, checked the diameter with calipers, studied the edge, looked at the errors under different lighting conditions, and finally leaned back in his chair with a look of complete disbelief on his face. "Do you have any idea what you have here?" Robert asked in a whisper, as if speaking too loudly might somehow make the coin disappear, and when Daniel admitted that he thought it might be valuable but wasn't sure how valuable, Robert's response was simply, "This could be the most important modern era coin discovery in the last 20 years, and you need to get this authenticated and graded immediately before word gets out." Within 48 hours, Daniel's coin was on its way to the professional coin grading service via registered mail with full insurance, and the authentication process that followed was absolutely meticulous. The coin was examined by no fewer than 5 different experts, each one verifying the legitimacy of the errors, confirming that it was a genuine United States Mint product and not some kind of post-mint alteration or counterfeit, measuring every aspect of the strike, cataloging the specific characteristics of each error, and ultimately determining that this was, without question, one of the most spectacular error combinations they had ever encountered on a Jefferson nickel. The coin was assigned a grade of MS 67, indicating near-perfect mint state condition with only microscopic imperfections, and it was encapsulated in PCGS's highest security holder with a special pedigree label noting it as the Daniel Discovery Specimen, the first known example of the 2013 P triple error broadstrike Jefferson nickel. News of the discovery spread through the numismatic community like wildfire. Within days, every major coin publication was running articles about the find, online forums were buzzing with discussions and debates about the coin's rarity and potential value, and major auction houses were calling Daniel directly, competing for the opportunity to offer this incredible piece in one of their upcoming sales. The auction, when it finally took place in January of 2014 at a Heritage Auctions event in Florida, was nothing short of spectacular. The lot description ran for over 2 full pages, detailing every aspect of the coin's errors, its discovery story, and its significance to the Jefferson nickel series, and the pre-auction estimate suggested the coin might bring anywhere from $5 to $10 million based on the unprecedented nature of the error combination. But when the actual bidding began, those estimates proved to be vastly conservative. Telephone bidders from Japan, Europe, and across the United States competed against internet bidders and live audience members, driving the price up in enormous increments, breaking the $10 million mark within the first 3 minutes, sailing past $15 million, then $20 million, and finally, after an absolutely breathless battle between 2 determined collectors that lasted over 12 minutes. The hammer fell at an absolutely astronomical $31 million, setting a record not just for Jefferson Nickels but for any error coin of the modern era. Daniel, who had paid 5 cents for the coin less than a year earlier, walked away from the auction as a multimillionaire, his life forever changed by 15 seconds of observation while examining a $10 box of bank nickels, proving once again that anybody, absolutely anybody, can make a fortune-changing discovery if they know what to look for and take the time to examine their coins carefully. Now, here's the part that should have every single person watching this video on the edge of their seat with excitement. Based on die state analysis and the nature of the errors involved, numismatic experts believe that this catastrophically damaged die likely produced somewhere between 8 and 20 examples before it was discovered and removed from service, which means that right now, at this very moment, there could be additional specimens of this $31 million error still sitting in circulation, completely unnoticed and unrecognized. Think about the implications. There could be examples sitting in change jars, mixed in with ordinary pocket change, sitting in old coin collections that haven't been examined in years, or even still circulating through the banking system, waiting for someone knowledgeable enough to recognize what they're looking at. This is why serious error coin hunters are absolutely obsessed with searching through 2013 P nickels, examining every single one they find with extreme care, looking for that telltale diagonal raised ridge across Jefferson's face, checking for the triple die characteristics, measuring the diameter to see if it shows broadstrike characteristics, and dreaming of being the next person to make a discovery that could change their life forever. So how do you identify one of these incredibly rare and valuable 2013 P triple error nickels if you happen to encounter one in your change? First and foremost, you need to look for the most obvious characteristic, that dramatic raised diagonal ridge running across Jefferson's portrait on the obverse, which is caused by a major die break and is visible even without magnification if you hold the coin at the right angle under good lighting. This ridge will appear as a raised line of metal that disrupts the normal smooth surface of the coin, and it's so dramatic on the genuine error specimens that you absolutely cannot miss it once you know what to look for. Next, examine the date and motto very carefully under magnification. You're looking for clear evidence of tripling, where you can see 3 distinct impressions of each number and letter, creating that ghosted, shadowy, almost three-dimensional appearance that's characteristic of major multiple die errors. Then, and this is absolutely critical, measure the coin's diameter using digital calipers. A normal Jefferson nickel measures 21.21 millimeters in diameter, but the broadstrike error examples will measure anywhere from 23 to 24 millimeters, making them noticeably larger than standard specimens. Finally, examine the edge of the coin. If it's completely smooth with no reading whatsoever, that confirms the broadstrike error where the coin was struck outside of the retaining collar that normally creates those vertical grooves around the edge. If you find a 2013 P nickel that exhibits all of these characteristics, the dramatic diagonal die break ridge, the clear triple die on the date and motto, the expanded diameter, and the smooth unreaded edge, you need to stop everything you're doing and get that coin professionally authenticated immediately. because you may have just discovered one of the most valuable modern United States coins in existence, a piece that could literally sell for tens of millions of dollars at auction and change your entire financial future in an instant. Don't make the mistake of assuming that because it's just a nickel, it can't be valuable. Don't overlook it because it's from a recent year, and absolutely do not spend it or allow it to get damaged, because the difference between a common 2013 P nickel worth 5 cents and one of these error specimens worth $31 million comes down to nothing more than knowledge, knowing what to look for, understanding what makes these errors so special, and having the awareness to recognize when you've stumbled upon something truly extraordinary. The beautiful thing about error coin collecting is that it's the ultimate equalizer. You don't need to be wealthy to participate, you don't need expensive equipment beyond a basic magnifying glass and perhaps a set of digital calipers, and you don't need years of experience to make a major discovery, because these errors can literally show up anywhere, in any roll of coins from any bank, in any handful of change from any transaction, just waiting for someone with the knowledge and attention to detail to recognize them for what they truly are, treasures hiding in plain sight among ordinary pocket change. So the next time you get nickels in your change, or the next time you're at the bank and have the opportunity to pick up a few rolls to search through, remember the stories of Margaret from Toledo and Daniel from Portland, ordinary people who made extraordinary discoveries simply by taking the time to look at their coins carefully, and ask yourself, could today be the day that changes your life forever? Could that handful of nickels sitting in your cup holder or that jar of change on your dresser contain a coin worth millions that you've been overlooking every single day? The only way to find out is to start looking, and who knows, maybe you will be the next person we're talking about in a future video, the next lucky individual who discovered a fortune in their pocket change and joined the ranks of legendary coin hunting success stories that inspire thousands of people to start examining their coins with fresh eyes and renewed excitement.